Hello, my name is Greta, and actually, although the name doesn't suggest it, I'm actually Greek, and you got my surname right for the first time. I usually don't get this. And I actually grew up in Greece, and I had to move abroad at 16 because I was into startups and all these things, and there was nothing that was going on. So it makes me so happy to see this and come back and see so many, like Panathēnea happening. I would have been so pumped when I was a teenager having this. So I'm part of Sigma Squared Society, so you'll hear more about Sigma Squared just after this panel, but we're a global community of invite-only founders that are under the age of 26 when they founded their companies. We like to think that we really unite and support the most ambitious young founders when they start young. And we are in more than 35 countries now with over 1,000 fellows. And actually, our fellows have collectively raised more than 3 billion in capital. And we were running the statistics the other day, and we realized that 95% of that has been after they joined the fellowship. So we'd like to say that we've contributed somehow to that. So, but enough about me. I would love to really introduce Hubertus and Simon, or Bobby? What do we call you?
Both, either, you pick.
Who is crushing actually our panel today, so you might not see him here on the slides. But instead of me telling who you are, why don't you guys tell us a bit who you are and what you're building with EWOR? Hubertus?
Happy to start. So my name is Hubertus. I'm CMO and partner at EWOR. I joined EWOR about a year ago, and that only after being a founder all of my life for 25 years. And yesterday, Greta asked me, why did you switch to the dark side? And I think my answer today, and I hope we will explain that a little bit down the road in the next 17 minutes, is I want to make that dark side a little bit lighter and bring the founder's perspective into early founder support.
I'm Simon, or Bobby, either or. I was the CEO of Adjust until early last year, and now I'm the COO at EWOR. And I'll stop the bio here because we need to talk about interesting things now for you guys.
Okay, and so you're both now with EWOR? Yeah. Okay.
Now it gets interesting.
Okay, so Bobby, it's me and you.
I'll scoot over.
Amazing. Okay, so you were at Adjust before. You
Yes.
joined EWOR now. Why did you join EWOR, being a founder before? And can you also tell us, before you go into that, what EWOR is?
Yeah, so I think the reason why I joined EWOR is after doing Adjust for 11 years, for those of you who don't know what Adjust was doing, we were an attribution company for advertising tech on mobile. So counting clicks on ads, which is riveting for 11 years, but not for more. EWOR, what we do is we basically understand, because we've built companies that were big, right? Like Memusli or Adjust were very successful companies, and we understand the pain of building a business. We understand that we've lived it. We understand it's a lonely journey. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's lonely. It sucks. You smash your head against the wall every single day, but it's really rewarding. And basically, our goal is to say, hey, we've made all of the mistakes we could make. Now we want to help people not make this and be more relevant and be more successful than we were, thanks not only to our knowledge, but also thanks to the network that we bring. The second aspect of EWOR and why I joined is I don't think any of us wanted to say, hey, in 10 years, I used to found a company. It was very successful 10 years ago. This kind of sucks because you don't feel the pain anymore. And what we do at EWOR is we build also products for founders. So we live the startup life still operationally. That's why you need a CEO. We live the startup life operationally, and our clients to an extent, right? The people that we serve are founders. And I think for us, it allows us to see the pain day to day of now, of still building a startup as it is today and not 10 years ago, and advising all of these other startups on how to make it even better. That's, to me, the main reason why we joined, because the breadth of knowledge and the people that I talk to, where, after counting clicks for 11 years, you talk to someone in deep tech, in biotech, in space tech, in whatever, and you're like, I understand nothing of what you're telling me, but I need to learn so that I can actually bring you proper advice, because otherwise I'm just a useless person who just gives you money and fucks off, right? It's not really what we want to do.
Well said.
It's true.
So it's similar for me. Having gone through the journey more than 3 times of founding a new company. And first one I started in 2007. And we bootstrapped actually for 8 years. 3 friends from university, 3,500 euros that needed to carry us for the time. Yeah? So bootstrapping was first experience. We scaled that company then to over 800 people in 9 countries. Everything was really, really crazy, but also quite a roller coaster. I switched to the supervisory board, then in 21, waited 3 days, started the next company. It was very different because it was R&D heavy. We were transferring a technology from the textile industry to the food industry to produce ultra-realistic meat replacements. And it was very clear that we need a lot of money for that, right? So we needed to hire about 30 people from all around the globe. And so we raised Europe's biggest round in alternative meat back then. And I learned through both of those journeys, both sides, right? Bootstrapping is not easy, and as Bobby said before, it's a quite painful way, but it's intense, and if you like that intensity, everything is fine, right? And on the other hand, raising money is also not easy, and having to deal with investors and the whole process is not easy. Being a founder today is very fashionable. It wasn't when I started. I was actually the exotic outlier. Yeah? Everyone declared crazy because I was basically selling oats after studying at a proper university. I'm super happy that I did it, but today it seems a little bit like it's very fashionable. It looks very shiny from the outside, but we are also there, and that's our job, I think, a part, is to tell people what the reality actually looks like. And sometimes even the strongest egos on that journey need some hand-holding. And you can hold that hand much better if you've been there and done that.
And you guys screen, if I'm not wrong, 35,000. You get 35,000 applications per year, right? People that want to join the fellowship. And you accept around 35 people, right? Which is a 0.1%, right? So it's more exclusive than YC, one could say. But so screening all these people and all these companies and working with them every year, are there any patterns that you've recognized of what makes a good founder, and also having been founders yourselves before?
Yeah, do you want to start?
Yeah. We screened for a lot, and the thing is, the bar is so high that it's really hard to tell, okay, who's going to be, like, a lot of people that we reject end up to be really successful because, like, the bar is so high. What we need to pinpoint on is, do you have, like, the drive that has carried you for your entire life? Do we see patterns of obsession, like deep obsession on whatever field, right? Because if you can reorient that obsession to your company, we've seen that you've done it, whether it's in sports, in like art, in gaming, in whatever, or in businesses very early. That obsession is one thing, because you're going to need to be willing to eat shit for 10 years to end up to be successful. And if you've done it already, then that's already a plus. Resilience as well, because like it goes with the obsession aspect. And then, you can always think like, oh, the idea is great, but the idea is only great if you can execute on it, right? So seeing that someone was able already to build something, even though it wasn't necessarily successful, but you went from like idea to execution, you understand that there's a pain to bringing something to market. That matters a lot, especially now where, anyone, like you said, everyone wants to be a founder, anyone and their dog can just vibe code some shit and then ship it for like 50K or whatever. It's cool, but that's not going to carry you for 10 years. You're going to do it, you're going to churn, you'll be like, oh, it sucks to actually scale it. We need to be able to sort out, like, hey, who wants to do this, which is very viable, right? Like, it's a cool business, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people who want to build for the next, 30 years, generational companies. And for that, you need to understand the plan that you have for 30 years, all of the potential obstacles, and do you have the resilience to just pierce through that wall? I think the reason why we are able to pinpoint this, especially like on the personality of the founder and on the business, but especially like on the personality of the founder, is because we know that it is not a shiny, it's really not shiny from the inside. It's really painful, and it's like, hey, do you understand that here you can present yourself as a founder, you can tell the world like, hey, I'm building this business, it is cool, which is true, but when it comes to like putting your hands in the dirt, you also are able to do it for a decade plus, basically. And that's where, for us, I think that's our edge in there.
So the resilience as well along there.
We know how it is, right? Like, we've got the pain.
Hubertus, would you agree?
Yeah, maybe to give some context, why only 35 a year, right? We are not even 30 people at EWOR, at the core team. We're scattered from Tokyo to Paraguay, and are global and borderless. because we think talent is distributed equally, no matter where you are, yeah, but the context that makes you thrive is not. And this is where I connect to when I introduce myself, how to bring some light to the dark side of investing. Yeah? We try to be there in one-on-one sparrings, like if necessary on a daily, but on a weekly basis. By experienced founders, 40% of our team have created companies valued between 100 million and 12 billion. Yeah? So those are the people who are your sparrings partner on a weekly basis. That's one ingredient that you really like to have as a founder. I know it from my own experience. The other is obviously you need to stay afloat. Yeah? You need to be financed. So we bring up to 500K per fellow we invest in. And then you want the best founding team. So we do a lot of co-founder matchings, but also talent. Because from our experience, we realized the first 5 to 10 people on your startup team are the ones who shape the culture and shape the pathway of your journey, and that can be a make or break decision. But it's not so easy if you're starting out as a founder with not that much experience to actually find the best talents and to attract them. So we help with that. And the third pillar is revenue, yeah? Bringing customers in front of customers. And what we try to do is speed that up by a factor of 1.5 or something that it usually takes. So we have, in recent months, like the last 6 months, 25% of our fellows who joined the EWOR fellowship have traveled to the point where they raised on a valuation of 100 million or more. And that in this short amount of time, right? We are currently in a world that changes very fast. You need to be fast, yeah, no matter how much obsession you have. But everything changes. And this is a big opportunity for founders, but it also demands being among the fastest. Otherwise, you will not be relevant the next day anymore.
And these founders were based anywhere in the world. Like, it's not like they were central to Germany or to the UK or to the US or to like France or whatever. They were around, like across the world, and they were still able to raise to 100 million because like there are ways to now be successful regardless of where you are on the globe. Sure, you're going to have to travel to SF because capital is in SF, so you can travel there. Maybe you want to relocate there, but it's not necessary. The founders that raised are not based in SF, for example. They are based in the US, in the UK, and in
That
Europe.
actually brings me to my next point, and also the title of today. But do you genuinely believe that, hey, you can be, because I know this is also something that EWOR supports, do you genuinely believe that you can build a great company from Europe, from anywhere, from Athens, from Milan, like if we have founders here and people that want to start companies, you think you can do it from Athens in the same way that would do it if you move to SF and do it? Like, what's your view on that?
Yeah, so basically it comes down to what is a great company, right? What do you actually want to build? Because to build anything, you need a laptop, Wi-Fi, and maybe a passport that lets you travel to places if you need to go there to visit your customers, to visit investors, and so on. But it depends on what you want to build and where you need to be, maybe, right? And what has changed in the history since Plato was teaching philosophy here, yeah? Or since mathematicians in my birthplace, Göttingen, were debating the advances of Gauss and math, right? You don't need to travel somewhere to get the knowledge that much, because knowledge is everywhere, yeah? We don't have not enough information, we need curation of that information. So checkbox there. Still, and I think even with AI progressing more, we need human connections to build trust. Yeah? But those can also be reached by digital means. Yeah? The economy is digital. English has become the universal language, yeah, around the globe, but also actually for coding now. And mobility has increased a lot. It's really accessible and cheap. So you can basically build from anywhere. You probably should be with your legal entity in a jurisdiction where people are able to invest, because if you're in like some, I don't know, shady economy where you don't know if you actually own the share as an investor, then it's going to be a problem. But you can build. And then is the next thing, like, what do you want to build? And at EWOR, we advise many applicants and fellows, hey, maybe you actually don't need investors, right? You can take this slowly, and it's going to be a super cool business, yeah? you'll have a great life, but it's not really an investment case. Yeah? So that's one decision you have to take. And we are looking at the ones who really want to build transformational companies, that can become really, really big. So the question then is, where do you need to be for those kinds of companies, right? And it can be the case that it's best to be in San Francisco. Then the question is, do you need to live there, be there, and found your company, or do you just need to travel there once or twice a year? This is why we have the EWOR residency 2 times a year for 6 weeks each. First one or next one starting in next week already, right? But for other industries that are not so software heavy, not so AI heavy, you could or should also be somewhere else. It depends on the context you need to engineer around yourself, and we're helping with that, to be like really, really on top and succeed with your company. But the answer is short, it depends.
Huh? But can I maybe also change the question? Because you can start from anywhere, right? But we see, especially in Europe, that actually a lot of companies, after they are the Series A and they need to scale, they actually move to the US. So can you actually, maybe you can start, but can you really scale a company in Europe?
You can scale a company in Europe for sure, right? Like, it's a question of, if you want US money, you're going to need to have a US entity right now, because Americans will invest in American businesses. Even though you're not based in SF, even though you're based wherever, you will just need like a Delaware C Corp, because it's easier for US money to just invest there. That's the main thing. But so to your question of, do you need to be in SF to scale a business, to start or to scale? No, you don't. The way you will scale will, of course, differ, because maybe you will want to travel there, maybe you need to have a culture that is a bit more like remote, all that stuff. Like, you will need to manage your org in a different way, whether it's like central to one spot or not. But do you need to be in a specific, like in SF to scale a business? That's not true. I mean, Adjust was not in SF, and we exited to an SF-based business, by the way, but like, we were not in SF, and we still were a pretty sizable business in Europe and in the US and in Asia, right? Like, worldwide. So it's just a matter of like, how do you organize your company so that you still have successes in like around the world, and how do you organize your hubs, etc., right? Like when you start to develop.
And again, also, what are you optimizing for? Because if it's like monetary value, companies based in SF statistically are outliers. But if you just compare cities and locations, you go probably Berlin is not so high valued as London, and London, the startups on average are not so high valued as in SF. And if you look at the upper quintile, like the top 25% of valuations, it's also this lineup, right? Berlin, London, then San Francisco, and I think it's like 3 times at least from one to the other. But if you look also at like what's the context besides the geography that really makes you thrive and end up in that 25%, upper 25%. If you take the EWOR companies, we're much higher than San Francisco companies, the upper 25%, right? In that stage, so we're early stage. And that shows to me also you don't need to be location bound that much, right? Another aspect for the location is like, if you're not optimizing for the highest valuation, and sometimes you have to because the space and industry demands it, what could you else be optimizing for, right? And there are quite some founders that ask me, should I go to the US? And I say, maybe, but it depends on your company, it depends on what you want, right? Because for some, there's a rational answer to that, measured in monetary value, but there might also be a value-based answer. Right? You want to bring your home country up, your economy, your market. Yeah? Then you might deliberately do a different choice and maybe not incorporate a Delaware company.
From 11 Labs yesterday, who is doing that from Europe, right? And he was talking yesterday how he wants to do it from Europe. So we are running out of time, but maybe one last question from my side. So if you were to now advise someone that has never started a company but want to start a company, and they come to you, they say, hey, I want to start something, I've never done it, I want to be a founder, what would you be looking for in them, and what would you tell them? What traits would you be looking for, and what would you tell them?
I mean, the question is like, why do you want to build a company in the first place? What is your goal from this? I think from that one question, you can just derive the rest. Because is it because you want to be called a founder, or is it because you really have that drive to build something that's going to last for a long time? Do you want to really like run that marathon as a sprint? Because that's what it is, right? And so I think this is the first thing, like, why do you want to build it? What is the drive behind it? And from there, you have like multiple answers that I can't give because we're running out of time. But I am here around, so if you have any questions, you can come to me or him or Greta.
And Hubertus, what would you say? Is it also why?
I think the first why is the biggest driver. Can that why carry you for a decade or more? Why should you win this, right? And usually there's some anchored obsession that we see in the most successful founders, right? And with anchored, I mean like there's a reason that is almost irrational, yeah, that lets you run through those walls. Nobody else will after like 10 walls because you're hitting one every week. And if you have that in you, and that's part of our job, trying to find that out and explore that with the applicants, then I think it can be a great company, great founder.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Actually, we have a side event at 3 that we're doing together with EWOR. So if anyone, it's called Uniting the Most Ambitious Young Founders. So if you want to join that, just check on your side events. But that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.